What's going on, everybody? American Football Network here with another video today. And today we're bringing you our USC preview and prediction. But before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment those thoughts and opinions down below. Help me hit that goal of 1,000 subscribers by August. We're about 11 or 10 or 11 away. So help us hit that goal. But let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So the USC Trojans last year, 11-3 overall, 8-1 in the Pac-12. Lost to Utah in the regular season on the road, 43-42. Utah went for the 2-point conversion with a few seconds left on the clock and got it for the win. Then they lost again to Utah in the Pac-12 championship, 47-24, and lost to Tulane in the Cotton Bowl, 46-45. So a solid season for Lincoln Riley in his first season with USC. Didn't really win the two big games at the end of the season, but 11-1 regular season isn't bad at all. You look at what they bring back. They bring back 6 starters on offense, 8 starters on defense. On that offense, though, they really got some big guys in at not only at transfer but as recruits. So let's start looking at some of those. So to start off offensively at running back, they get Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina, the transfer in. Then you look at right tackle, they're going to have transfer Michael Tarkin coming in from Florida. And then let's see here at tight end, they have freshman tight end Deuce Robinson. He should get a lot of playing time this season. Number 19 player in the country in this past cycle, number 1 player in his position, number 1 player in the state of Arizona out of Phoenix. You look at Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver, number 7 overall player in the country, number 1 guy out of Nevada. He should get a lot of playing time. You also return Mario Williams, Brendan Rice, and Taj Washington. So this is going to be still a very good team offensively. But let's get to the defensive side of the football. And this is where they are really going to shine, is on the defensive side of the football, or really improve, I would say, is they went from being a pretty bad defense. As we look at their numbers from last season, they weren't a very good defense. In the Pac-12, they ranked 8th in scoring defense with 29.2 yards per game. They ranked 8th in everything. Actually, with 159.8 rush yards allowed, 264 passing yards allowed, and 423.9 total yards allowed. That is 8th out of 12. But, I expect them to be better than that this year. They get a lot of good transfers in on that defense. They get Bear Alexander from Georgia at D-line. They get Anthony Lucas from A&M at D-line. They get Jack Sullivan at D-line from Purdue. They get Mason Cobb at linebacker from Oklahoma State. They get, let's see, who else do they get? They get Christian Roland Wallace from Arizona at corner. They get Kyan Bars at D-line from Arizona. And then they get Jamil Muhammad at linebacker from Georgia State. So they got some good transfers in. 247 gave most of those guys a 4-star transfer rating. So these are some good experienced guys that are coming into play for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans, and I expect them to have, a pretty good impact on this team. I expect the defensive side of the football to be an improvement for them. I think that that's something that really hurt them a lot last year, but I think that they have improved that and will be better at. So let's go ahead and jump into the schedule. Week 1, they get San Jose State. I have this game as a win. Not much discussion needed for that one. Week 2, they get Nevada. I have this one as a win as well. I think Nevada is going to be one of the worst teams in the Mountain West. No problem there for USC. Then they get Stanford at home. I have this game as a win. Stanford, is a team that has struggled recently in the Pac-12. They're a team that's in a bit of a mess right now. I don't think Stanford's going to have a very good season at all. I don't really like what they have on either side of the football. I think they're probably the worst team in the Pac-12, and so I have a win here for USC, and a pretty easy win. Then they go on the road to Arizona State. I have this game as a win. I don't think this one right here is much different than the Stanford game. I don't think Arizona State is that much higher up than Stanford is. So I have a win there for USC. I think it'll be a pretty easy win. Then they go on the road to Colorado. I have this game as a win. I'm not buying Colorado's hype just because Deion Sanders is the head coach now. He's never really done anything at Jackson State. He beat a bunch of teams that he was supposed to beat because he got a few good recruits in. But whenever you look at what he was actually, whenever he actually played in the Holiday Bowl and some other big games, he lost all of them. So I'm not some huge fan of him thinking that he's going to take Colorado and win 8 or 9 games with them this season. That's just not happening. They're winning 4 or 5, and USC's not one of them. They're going to blow them out. Then they get Arizona at home. I have this game as a win. They beat Arizona last season on the road, 45-37. This is a game I think that will be, less competitive than it was last season with USC's defense improving, which is kind of weird to say because Arizona also improved. But I think with the improvements that USC made defensively, they have a real shot to go to the playoff this season, and I think that they will have zero problem against Arizona. I don't think it's going to be a one-score game like it was last season. Then they go on the road to Notre Dame. I have this game as a win. I think they win, and I think they win by 14 plus. They beat them last year 38-27 at home. I think they do it again. And like I said, I think USC wins by 14 plus. That defensive improvements is so key for them. And the offensive line is going to be even better as well. So, a lot of good a lot of good pieces that were added to this USC team that makes them even more dangerous. I like it. I'm a fan of it. Win at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is just, they don't have they have a good secondary, but they don't have a good defensive line. And so I worry that with them not being able to get a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams, then what does that secondary even matter if his receivers are running around for 5 seconds? Not only that, once they finally do get to him, all the plays he's going to be able to scramble around and make with his legs. It's going to be a tough one for Notre Dame to pull out. I don't think they can do it. Then they get Utah at home. I have this game as a win. This is a team that beat them twice last season. The second time wasn't even close, but I do think USC gets their revenge in this one. I think that they could beat Utah. I think that last year you again the defense. Your defense was not very good last season. You gave up 43 to them and 47. I think this year you can cut that down to like 30, 35 and give yourself a chance to win. I think that Utah is also gotten a little bit worse. They lose a few pieces. So particularly Dalton Kincaid, the tight end that was huge for them last season. They don't have him anymore. So I think Utah has a few holes that they're going to have to fill in. And I think that that this is a team that could definitely a losable game, but I don't expect them to lose this one. I think that they get the win. Then they go on the road to Cal. I have this game as a win. Again, I think Cal's kind of in the same boat as Arizona State and Stanford. They can't really compete with a team like USC. Their quarterback, Jack Plummer, just transferred out. This is a team that USC only beat 41-35 last year by 6. I expect that to go way up at least 10 points this season, and I would expect a lot more than that. Then they get Washington at home. I have this game as a win, but this is a game I could definitely see them losing again as well. Washington has probably the best passing attack in the country. Ohio State, once they get a quarterback, will. But, that Washington offense with Michael Penix and those receivers that they have is dangerous and it's scary. But they don't really have their defense is worse than USC. So if it's going to be a shootout of a game, and if USC can get a stop or two and hang with them, which I think that they most definitely can hang with them, I think they can pull out the win. But this is going to be one of the most entertaining and high scoring games of the season, so definitely one that you don't want to miss. Then they go on the road to Oregon the next week. I have this game as a loss. I think that these two teams are pretty close whenever you throw in the fact that it's at Oregon as well. I think it's a tough game to pick between. When you look at their USC schedule, I think they lose one, so I'm going with on the road at Oregon just because it's a road game against a tough team, and the other two games are at home. That's kind of my thinking through that one, but it's a game I still think very possible that they could win, but I'd mark it in as a loss because it's they're pretty even teams in my opinion, and Oregon is the home team. Then they get UCLA at home. I have this game as a win. I think the Bruins are going to be a solid team, but they still have so much to replace and figure out. I think it's going to be hard for them in week one. In year one with all these new pieces. Dante Moore, freshman year. I don't think he's a guy like a Trevor Lawrence who's going to come in and win a national championship in his first season. I think he's good, but I don't think he's to that level yet. But that wraps up USC's regular season. I have them going 11-1 overall, 8-1 in the conference. So pretty good season there for USC. I think it's one that could potentially get them into the playoff. I think that they have a real potential and shot at that this season, as do a lot of teams. I think it's going to be a great college football season. I think there's 16 teams that you can make an argument for them to be in the playoff. But that wraps up today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below.